Hi, I'm Val, and I love to talk about interior decor and design. But I also love to talk about sustainability. And in my opinion, those two topics can absolutely go hand in hand. As someone whose furniture and decor is roughly, I would say, 80% thrifted, inherited, or otherwise pre-loved, I am, of course, a big fan of shopping secondhand. And it's great to see that a lot more people are embracing that nowadays. However, it sometimes feels like not all of those people always think of ways to keep things sustainably and maybe use items for multiple purposes or just making things that you already own work for you in the long run. Now, I am not super handy nor super patient, to be honest, so DIYing really isn't for me. In fact, last year I did a one project where I spray painted a ceiling pendant, only to find out that it now barely lets any light through anymore. So, you live and learn, but I am not the right person to give advice on such things. So, the following list requires little to no handiwork, except maybe some screwing and maybe some unscrewing. But you can always just get a professional for that. Anyway, let's dive into it. Number 1, are your cushion inserts too flat, small, or just generally worn out? Add 2 into a pillowcase and then you only need to invest in 1 new one, if at all. You can also shove old clothing in there that you were going to donate anyways, or things like old towels. I've used this trick on some of my decorational pillows, but also on the back cushion of my lounge chair because it kept dipping in, especially anytime that the cat would jump on the back of the chair. The cushion would just have, that little dip in the middle. But now, with an old towel shoved in the bottom, it looks newly stuffed. The cushion, not the cat. And they provide a lot more support. Almost as much as the cat. And speaking of towels, number 2, use old hand towels, or what some people call guest towels, as gym towels and old tea towels as cleaning rags. Just because something no longer looks pretty doesn't mean it can't be functional. I use a bleached old body towel for when I go into the sauna, and I use my mom's old hand or guest towels for my forehead sweat at the gym. I don't have any old tea towels yet, but I do have an old microfiber hair turban for like drying my hair that sadly the button broke off of. But the microfiber is great for cleaning my little glass side table and my oven and any other kind of shiny surface. So I mourned the loss of my trusty turban just a little less. Number 3, rug too small, layer one underneath. Or rug too busy, not the best color, layer one over top. This is a trick which I used in my friend Kate's living room makeover, which you can find 2 videos back, as her rug didn't really suit the new furniture layout. It was either too long or too narrow, kind of. So we ended up letting a smaller runner overlap with it a little, and it worked out, at least for the time being. But of course, you can also layer rugs the more regular way, so centered on top of each other. For example, when you move into a home where the room is bigger, or you just move the rug into a different room in general, maybe you change paint colors and it no longer really matches with the rug, or maybe you just get sick of looking at the same rug year after year. So switch things up by layering them. Get a little crazy with it. Pimp that rug with another rug. Sure, let's go with that. Something else you might get sick of after many years of looking at it are table lamps. And the solution's pretty simple, actually. Just change the shades. The more ornate something is, the more likely you are to get tired of the look. But at the same time, getting a whole bunch of basic, boring beige stuff doesn't usually make for a very enjoyable home. So with shaded lamps, it's easy to find the right balance by swapping out only the shade instead of the whole lamp. Or if you're crafty, you can paint the shade, reupholster it, or I don't know, make your own. But I know myself and I shan't be doing any of those things. So instead, when I inherited an old table lamp from my grandfather's house, I swapped the very aged, kind of yellowed shade out for something a little bit more modern to create contrast between the antique base and the thrifted newer shade. And the old one, back to the thrift store for someone who doesn't want that older look. Number 5 is a bit similar to the lampshade idea, but applicable to pretty much any household or interior style and with an even bigger impact. So listen closely. Don't like your clothing dresser, kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanity? Swap out the handles. In my previous apartment, I had a thrifted IKEA hemness dresser because I really liked the size of the drawers. 2 small ones on top for your underwear and socks, an extra big one below for pants, and all the others for t-shirts, basic tops, athletic wear, pajamas, whatever. But I did not like the farmhouse country type of style of the dresser itself. So I thought to myself, what defines the style of this dresser? What makes it different from any other one? It has no decorations or funky details like any ornate stuff, has very normal legs. It's white, one of the most neutral colors in existence. It was the drawer handles, or pulls. So I went out and I found a whole bunch of more modern and slightly more playful square ones that were pretty affordable, and I swapped them all out. Yes, this is where the unscrewing and screwing comes in. But it was absolutely worth it because I liked the dresser so much more afterwards. This is great as well for older kitchens and bathrooms if you don't rent, or even if you own, if you don't have the budget to renovate. But if you do rent, you can do this, but just make sure you keep the original handles and pulls because the landlords might have a different taste than you, and while we don't always have to appease to the landlords, I do want you to get that safety deposit back. May you all be blessed to get every safety deposit on every rental back ever. Amen. All right, so those first 5 were all simple ways to continue using something you already own, but that has either aged too much to still look good, or maybe no longer fits your taste and your needs. But there's also a bunch of stuff that hasn't necessarily aged, but that you can use in different ways that can prevent you from buying or building new stuff. All right, that sounded kind of vague. I do realize that. I guess think less upcycle and more multi-purpose. All right, let's get back to the list. Number 6 is old big books to serve as trays or just generally ways to compile smaller items. Okay, it's not necessarily super hard to thrift or generally buy a tray, but it can be difficult to find one that you really like. In the meantime, some older, bigger books, and I'm talking about length by width, not like thickness of it, not a long book necessarily, but like a coffee table book, can work really well on top of an ottoman to put your drink down, or just generally on tables, shelves, or other big surfaces to act as bases for smaller decor items. This is called corralling. See, if you just put one little vase or one scented candle on top of a big sideboard, it's gonna end up looking a little awkward. But you throw it on a little stack of books and boom, it looks intentional. So obviously you do run the risk of damaging the book a little, so I would use books that you're not precious about, either ones that you've already read or that are kind of falling apart anyway. Or to be honest, thrift stores get donated so many books all the time that sometimes they can't even take them all in. So it's not like some kind of crime to just buy some books for the sake of using them in this way, in a corralling type of way. Number 7 should save you both on wall art and on storage solutions because we're combining the two. I've talked about this before, but I really like decorating walls by storing things on them, especially for smaller homes. Now, maybe not on every wall, but you could at least do, let's say, one kitchen wall and maybe in one of your bedrooms or the living room. I myself use some shelving and pot hooks on my kitchen wall, and I hang my keys and my headphones between this little gallery wall that hides my intercom. But there are a lot of other practical items you can display. Think of your hat collection on a wall or some cool hobby supplies. You can even hang a cute little fold-out chair that you can just take out whenever guests come over and hang back, and it's all cute and stuff on the wall and it looks nice and you can still enjoy it visually. I don't know. This way you don't have to buy a bunch of random art to fill your walls, nor do you need to buy any fancy storage solutions. It's a 2-for-1. Okay, bye. Number 8, I feel like people often forget that you can use curtains instead of closet doors or to hide a TV or even to give extra texture to your walls. Okay, this is the one that requires the most work since the curtains do have to be hung, but if you don't want to or can't do it, just get a professional to do it, like I said before. Or someone like a TaskRabbit or whatever the service is called where you're from. Or just bribe your friends and family to do it. That's how I usually get away with things. Any handy person will do. Using curtains can often save you from having to buy closet doors, which are usually one of the most expensive parts of a closet. But it also can save you from investing in things like wallpaper or wood paneling if you want texture on your walls. And now you don't have to buy one of those fancy TV cabinets that open and close because apparently nobody's allowed to know that you have a TV. And it definitely saves you from having to buy one of those fancy frame TVs that I personally don't even really like. Who are we trying to fool? That's not a painting. My parents have one of these and I know that it's a frame TV, but even if I didn't know, I wouldn't think that was a painting. I see you. I see right through you, Samsung. For a personal example, when I bought my current apartment, there was nothing hiding my water heater in the kitchen. I could have had my reno contractors build some sort of cabinet around it like I had in my previous rental apartment, but all the expenses were already over budget, and I knew that once I placed a washing machine underneath, it would stick out from the niche anyway. So I grabbed the shower curtain that I took from my old apartment. I didn't steal it from the landlords. I bought the shower curtain and the rod. And I no longer needed it because I have a beautiful glass shower door here. So I just stuck the whole thing in front of the water heater and the washer dryer combo. If you don't have one of those, I highly recommend. And now the whole thing is hidden. And the bonus is that because it's synthetic, it doesn't really hold the odors of the kitchen, and if anything splashes, I can easily wash it. And it didn't even require a single tool. Except for me, I guess. But still, a win. Number 9 is a small home classic, stool as a side table. And bonus points if they're stackable. So yes, this is already a hack for smaller spaces, but it also saves you from buying both a side table and extra seating for when guests are over. Stools make for perfectly fine side tables when you're alone and can be used as seating for guests when you have a party. Of course, they're not super comfortable, but if everyone just kind of moves around throughout the evening and swaps seats, or you could just do musical chairs if no one's doing that, then it's not so bad and then everybody does have a place to sit. Some of them are even stackable, so you can store quite a few in a small area. And if you don't need side tables but you need nightstands, they're also great for that. But because most people do like to store things in their nightstands, I would suggest at least placing a box underneath. With a lid, probably. And lastly, number 10 is a little bit more general. Just because something is made for a specific type of storage doesn't mean it can't be used for anything else. Whether it's a flower vase or a wine decanter or a fruit bowl or a tea box or an old toy chest, it doesn't mean that you can't store other things in it. I've seen people use a decanter for their mouthwash, vases to store utensils, or kind of the opposite, bottles as vases. A fruit bowl as a drop zone for your keys and wallet, an old wooden tea box as an accessory display, or a chest as a TV stand, with something you rarely need inside, of course, like seasonal decor. So whenever you have any kind of storage item, think outside of the box. Unless, of course, you want to store something in there. I really hope that you can use some of these tips to save some money and the planet just a little. But even if they don't apply to your home, I hope more people can adopt this mindset of thinking creatively and sustainably about anything and everything in your homes. Just a little personal note, I do usually try to upload every week, but I don't know if that's going to be entirely possible in the near future because my dad was in an accident and he's currently in the hospital and he's going to still need a lot of rehabilitation afterwards. And so that takes a lot of time and energy from me as well. But I want to try to stick to my schedule as much as possible. partly because this is my creative outlet. I really enjoy making these, both the making of the videos itself, but of course also with my love for interior design. But I'm also really close to getting monetized and I could really use some extra cash. So I am gonna try to keep posting regularly, but it might be a little more on and off than usual. So bear with me, please. As always, if you want to support me, leaving a like, but especially a comment, lets YouTube know that you enjoyed this video and that others may as well. Thank you so much for watching and hopefully see you very soon. Not exactly sure how soon, but soon.